Welcome. Greetings, everyone, and those who are joining. I am going to be sharing with you today after coming back from our Juicy She Rose weekend, which we call Risen Weekend because women who are rising above the mother and daughter wound into their own, coming home into themselves. And so I just want to say congratulations to those women who have gone through a rites of passage and really an activation to rise to be the one in their bloodline, healing 7 generations of their feminine soul contract forward, 7 generations behind them. And so my hope was to have a little video available for you. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that when I do upload the recap of I would say about 7 years of this work. This is our inaugural edition of the Juicy She Rose journey that has been reimagined and given as a download and a transmission for the Divine Mother in ways for us to step into our calling on this journey of our feminine soul call. Let me say that. And so, greetings, Yuzuri. Welcome. Thank you for saying hi, and welcome to all of you who are watching and are coming. I have sent the link out, and there are certain people who are absolutely looking. But even when you subscribe on YouTube, you get an alert so that if I'm a little off by 15 minutes because of an appointment or 30 minutes in some cases, then you will get the notification right there on YouTube, or those of you who use email. Greetings, Chantel. Always love to you, honey. So we are going to start this so that I don't go too long, because the conversation was supposed to only be for 30 minutes. However, it got so good that my sister Talisha Berry wanted to go longer. And so in her going a little longer, we dove into some pieces of this discussion just in time for Mother's Day. I don't care how old you are. This mother-daughter conversation around healing the mother wound is not going to go away, especially as women rise into their feminine soul call, as women turn on their light, their love, their liberation beyond the shame, the guilt, and the institutional memory of having to suppress our womanhood. That institutional memory gets reset when a woman goes through her own rites of passage for her feminine soul. So once again, congratulations to all the women who have gone through rites of passage and consecration with us through the Juicy process. Juicy has again been reimagined, and I'll share more with you, but I want to go on and get this going so that you can join this conversation easily with us. So I want to make sure that once you start hearing the conversation, that you can join in. I will be asking questions. I do want you to comment as usual. And what else? I want to shout out to Talisha Berry from Courageous Woman Magazine. As you all know, I was featured on.
Good evening and welcome to Courageous Woman Magazine Live, the show where powerful women share powerful stories. We're diving in deep into conversations that empower, inspire, and ignite transformation. And I am your host, Dr. Talisha Berry. Tonight, we're going to be talking to the Reverend Dr. Latanya Taylor on the mother wound. It's going to be a spectacular show tonight. So make sure that you have invited all your friends, your sister friends, and share. It's going to be an amazing conversation. So get ready. I have a statistic that I wanted to share with you about the mother wound. The mother wound refers to the emotional trauma carried from childhood into adulthood, often due to a mother's emotional unavailability, criticism, or disengagement. The trauma can affect how women show up in their relationships and how they view themselves. That is taken from charliehealth.com. Thank you so much for joining us. And I want to just get right into my guest. Yes, my guest. Let's get started with the show. My guest tonight is the Reverend Dr. LaTanya Taylor. She is a transformational psychology educator, currently in, currently empowering the next generation of enlightened leaders, serving as a prevost mentor for spiritual entrepreneurs and master executive coach in the marketplace, serving multiple media and as a producer and spiritual educator, plus author, priest, certified holistic health practitioner. She's doing amazing things. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me, Dr. LaTanya Taylor.
Thank you for having me.
We got stuff going on over here. Yes, thank you for being here. This is a really serious conversation that we're going to have tonight. There's so many women who may be dealing with issues with their moms and didn't really know that it was really an issue.
Right.
And not understanding the wounds that affect us. Me personally have had to deal with mother and daddy wounds. So I am, just very open to this conversation. And I hope that you that are watching will share with other women that may have had to experience some challenges in their relationships with their mother. So we're going to get into it tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to get into this very serious conversation. One of my first questions is about the mother wound. Tell us a little bit about that as it relates to your work and who you are, what you do. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you started with it.
Well, I call myself a multiplier because I am a multi-purpose. A lot of times people want to put you in one box, in one category. And because I've been able to move in and out of different industries, I have continued to see the same theme show up in women at all levels, in all walks of life. And because it's not just the corporate woman or the woman that is on drugs, for instance, right? That's two different worlds in many ways. Well, some would argue with that, but what you have here is one obvious wound that you can see, and then there is the one that's covered up by achievements, titles, and performance. Mm-hmm. So in my range of working in ministry, where you meet people from all walks of life, and then working in production where women are watching women on television thinking that they have it together because they might have red bottoms on, or they may have a husband, or they may have the house and the car, but you don't know what is really motivating that particular thing. So that shows up everywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I understand that a lot of us say you see the glory, but you don't know the story.
Yes. Yes. That's
yes. So what exactly, how does the mother womb affect us emotionally and psychologically across different areas of our life?
Emotionally, it can affect every woman different. Like if I was to say one woman is emotionally unavailable, another woman, it may manifest as overcompensating. So particularly mothers, where this is a generational thing, because oftentimes the young woman who has the mother wound, when she finally talks to her mother also has one. And it can show up as misunderstanding, breakdown in communication, sometimes even mirroring. What I mean by mirroring is the mother has the same needs as her daughter. And because the mother's needs were never met, she doesn't know how to meet the needs of her own daughter because she didn't have a model. So so that way it can show up in terms of the emotions, particularly arguments, disappointments, criticism, never feeling like what you do is enough to please that mother. So the daughter oftentimes feels criticized, but sometimes a mother can also feel very defeated as well because she's trying to do something. Maybe her love language is different than her daughter's love language. Mentally, it has a strong grip on a woman for years. Let me say that again. Years into her life. Sometimes it takes a woman becoming a grandmother before she heals her own mother wound.
Wow. So what are some of the ways that people who have their to kind of break the generational stigma of like the mother, she really didn't know that she was causing the issues, and when she realizes she wants to kind of rectify that, sometimes I don't know, in some issues it may be too late. What are some of the things that she can do so that it doesn't continue on to the next generation or her grandchildren?
What are some of the things the mother can do, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of the things that a mother could do is learn how to ask and not just tell. A lot of times mothers are telling what to do, how to do, what to, but never ask a question. How do you feel? What do you think about this? Meaning, in other words, I'm saying to have a conversation. I would say even the most important thing than that is keeping in mind that these girls, young girls, they don't respect. This generation does not want your representative. They want the real you. And depending on your references in terms of your religion, your own personal development work, a lot of girls have their mother's representatives and they see the conflict. They see the hypocrisy. And so therefore, if you are only bringing your representative, and this generation is the call out generation, then they'll call you out, right? The other thing is, so that's two things. The third thing is to apologize. After I have done the work with women, oftentimes or while we're in the work, particularly if it's a mother who is just realizing what she's done and her children are grown, I work with her in creating an atonement with her children. My mother, I have a mother wound. And the only thing that would open up conversation is after I've had an upset and I was expressive. Now, some girls are not expressive. I would be pleading for, sometimes arguing for, sometimes, it looked like talking back. But some of the things that my mother would say to me sometimes would be so harsh, so horrible, that if I didn't say anything, I can only imagine how crushed I would be. But my mother would always apologize once I brought certain things to her attention, even if she didn't like it. Now, I will say we have to be careful with that too, because abuse or abusers are oftentimes known for apologizing after they have. Now, physical abuse is easy to identify, but emotional abuse, a lot of times you have mothers who've never said, I apologize, I didn't know any better, I should have done this, but I didn't know how. These things make a world of difference in beginning to bridge the gap.
I think, in my era growing up, typically moms or kids were told, you don't talk back. And that was it. If you express yourself, then you're talking back. And they didn't understand
Yes.
that there was issues that we need to resolve, and
Mm-hmm.
it's better to communicate and talk about it. But a lot of times we didn't know how to articulate that we're having an issue, or this is even a wound that's developing. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. So a lot of
And
times.
you're absolutely right. The generation makes a difference, because if you don't understand what generation your mother comes from, then you won't understand why she won't talk, why she holds this particular boundary or that type of thing. And so it's not your job, though, as the daughter, to fix it. And that is a dangerous line between expressing yourself or asking questions than trying to fix her. There is a
Mm,
place of mental health that a wounded daughter has to sometimes accept, that her mother may not have the capacity to
mhm,
give her what she needs. That's
mhm,
why this wound is never to be underestimated. It never goes away. The
mhm,
only way that it can be healed is mother to daughter. The same way she had you, there's that connection to that umbilical cord. But
mhm,
there are times when your mother has just does not have the capacity to be able to give you what you need. And so then there's a whole nother process that has to happen, of being able to accept, to heal, to function, to supply yourself or reparent yourself with the things that you never had or that you never knew. And that is where sisterhood comes in. That's how come
mhm,
every woman is we, no matter if that's our girlfriend, we sisterhood is mothering.
mhm.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
that's the only way that we know how
Mhm,
to be mothered.
mhm. Absolutely. I totally get that part. Having mother wounds and issues of myself, and having to um, create my own coping mechanisms to, and finally realizing that I was not going to get what I was looking for. I didn't even know how to articulate what I really wanted and needed, and it may have come across the wrong way, and just finally get to a point where I'm not going to get that. And that's a hard place too, to accept that it's not going to change.
Yes, that is probably the most difficult things to accept, even after you've communicated, because oftentimes we have an agenda with communication,
Mm,
hoping that what we say is going to change the behavior, but there's a possibility that it may not change. This is where boundaries come in, and this is why you see some of the younger generation holding, and I say, when I say younger, I mean like Gen Z, some millennials, but this the ones younger than millennials, Gen Z, they're going no contact, completely no contact with a toxic mother or an abusive mother. Now, I do think that that's a bit of an extreme, but there may be a period. Sometimes therapists recommend that you go no contact for a period, because it can be necessary in order not to not continuously re-traumatize yourself. The other level is limited contact. You know, you're in communication. You don't expect that that's going to be your girlfriend, or that's going to be the person that you can divulge your information to, because see, the issue for girls, oftentimes when you can't feel safe with your own mother, it will show up in all of your relationships and in the world. Because any room that you enter into, you do not feel safe with, particularly other women. But
mhm,
where you really don't feel safe is with your identity, because mother teaches you by demonstration or directly who you are. Who am I? You look at your mother, whether, even if she's not there that much, if she works a lot, you look at that, the absence.
mhm,
um, Father teaches you how to use your identity out in the world, how to convey it, how to express it, how to use your confidence to move in the world. So the father is about movement, but the mother is about sitting in the identity of who I am. Because see, when you look at your genealogy is determined by your mother's line.
Mm.
Your tribe, your wealth is determined by your mother's line. Well, your father gives you identity that is connected to some things in epigenetics, if you will. But when we're talking about identity in who I feeling like I know who I am, it comes from watching your mother, how she moves, how she speaks, how she's loved. Because sometimes it's not always, the wound is not always direct, it's not always overt. If a daughter is witnessing her mother not be loved well, or be bitter or broken or working all the time. I mean, I have facilitated sessions with young girls who are so tuned in, and I'm talking about, we would consider them babies to Dr. Talisha. But they're coming here so spiritual, so tuned, that the thing that, like, the mother, I've seen situations where the mother's chasing the bag. I'm pausing for somebody watching to receive that. We got a lot of people chasing the bag, the notoriety, and the daughter wants no part of it. They don't want any part of that, and they're like, that's fake, that's phony, you're not this, but you're so and you know what? Mothers and daughters do this anyway. There's a bit of that between a mother and her daughter anyway.
Yeah, I can identify with that. I have 3 lovely daughters, adults, so I definitely can identify with that. Why is this subject so sensitive and taboo, especially when it comes to families and communities of color?
You know, I that's such a good question, because Black women in particular, in our community, it is an unspoken rule. Don't say that about your mother.
That's your mama.
Don't say that she did the best she could, or whatever the excuse was. And that is gaslighting and shutting down that the person that's seeking answers. And I cannot tell you how many times I experienced that in my family. And I was reaching out to elders, her peers, and the dismissal was more wounding, because it almost makes you feel like you're a little crazy or something's wrong with you for saying anything, just because your mother provided, or because she's single and she's stretched. But it does go back to that generational conversation. So for instance, I want to give some references for people watching. The silent generation is notorious for don't talk back to me, children stay in your place, and they raise baby boomers and some Gen Xers. And then you have baby boomers who didn't want anything to do with all the things that the silent generation represented, from sharecropping to farming, agriculture, and that type. This is the generation that went off to college, got a little education. So they disassociated with a lot of what was really our wealth back then, but they disassociated with a lot of those things. And those women also became very focused on climbing the corporate ladder. And so baby boomers put a lot of responsibilities on children. This is where you get the term latchkey children, the children raising themselves. This is where Gen X now comes in. So now you have Gen, I'm a proud Gen Xer. And so you have Gen X that is really the unknown factor. It could go any way with us. And then you still have some boomers who gave birth to millennials, and then you have both Gen X and boomers who did things like, well, I don't want my child to go through what I went through. So many women and men thought that their work, their things, their supply of material possessions should be enough. That communicated and conveyed the love, the attention, the quality time. That did not happen. And so the gap gets filled in from one generation to another. Now you have millennials that come out. We have the internet now, right? And so now everybody has social media and people are talking. They're using their diary as a diary. When I first started this work, Dr. Felicia, that people did not talk about the mother wound. Now you just put in mother wound, and there's a whole podcast dedicated to the Black mother wound. I mean, I could just go on and on about the levels of this particular place of healing. It's so tender because of that programming. And it doesn't mean that you're ungrateful to be able to deal with how you were hurt by somebody that you love. It doesn't mean that you are erasing the aha moments of like, oh, I understand my mother now. Oh, I see why she didn't have this. It doesn't erase that, because then that also sets up so many alternate identities in order to cope, in order to compensate for what you didn't have. Now, so because you're talking about now, I can't talk about it. And if I say something about it, then they're going to think, or whatever is the case. And so I think the Bible says it like this, young men for war, old men for counsel. And we are the aunties now. So if you're a mother, or the young generation, doesn't matter if you're a mother or not, they call you auntie. So just for those watching. So we have a responsibility to talk openly about this. We have a responsibility to have more conversations like this and have other young women, young mothers, young wives present, because it does show up in your relationship. It shows up in your love, your sex life, and your money. A lot of people miss the connection to the money. And this is why many young women are filling the gap with the bag, with being an influencer, or the acquisition of whatever outside, because they're trying to fill a hole the size of their mother on the inside.
Wow. So what are some of the common relationship patterns and struggles you see in daughters who are trying to, or who are carrying unhealed mother wounds?
Oh, definitely low self-esteem. And low self-esteem, let me say this, is not as obvious as many people think. Because today, low self-esteem shows up as arrogance. Low self-esteem, it's the opposite end. Low self-esteem shows up as being guarded, self-protection. So when a person already has this guard up, it shows up as a lot of mouth, attack, blame. In psychology, they have a term called rejection sensitivity disorder, RSD. That stems from ADHD. Now, I'm not trying to get technical with a lot of this. What I'm saying is that if you have a mother that has had postpartum syndrome or some form of depression or ADD or ADHD, and it's gone undiagnosed all of her life, it could show up in many different forms that are negative, and we attach it to, oh, she has an attitude, oh, she's being difficult, or she's angry all of the time.
You mean for the daughter?
For the daughter or the mother, because it's not like the apple does not fall far from the tree. It's as much as the meditation, the secret meditation is, I don't want to be anything like my mother. Spiritually, metaphysically, you are attracting that. Everybody knows about the law of attraction and love to talk about the law of attraction in terms of money. But that law of attraction also shows up in our process of healing, because what you resist, it will persist. You will continue to attract the lesson in your relationships. You'll attract the lesson in your money. You'll attract the lesson in your when it's time to get vulnerable. So any space that requires your vulnerability, oftentimes that's when that wound will show up and fracture how you show up. I mentioned rejection sensitivity disorder. There's so many new terms for unhealed wounds now. It's kind of ridiculous. And some psychologists don't even think that this is a real thing, as if we need another thing. But there are women also talking about how, like, I didn't know that I had this, that, or the other. And had I known, I could have dealt with it. And I'm talking about both mothers and both daughters as well.
Wow. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of us don't realize that, for myself, of having to have dealt with issues, constantly trying to not only identify them and suppress them and make sure that I don't bring them to my own children or my own daughters particularly. But I've seen some of them show up, so I'm constantly, consulting and counseling and, when I see some of me. So, I'm just being transparent here. I'm being for real about this because this is a really, really good conversation. So I appreciate this conversation. Any of you that want to be part of the after show, the link is there. We will be just further discussing this after this show. Maybe we'll get a little more deeper, a little more personal for those of who you may have personal questions that you haven't answered here. But thank you. I appreciate this conversation. So let's keep it moving for a few more minutes.
Okay.
How does a long-standing breakdown between a mother and a daughter affect a woman's career? We touched a little bit about that, but particularly in the financial decisions, whether it's for their job, whether if they have a business, just how does it affect just the overall thinking about finances?
You know how two things immediately dropped in when you asked that question is, how in business we oftentimes have sessions and write about and articles about imposter syndrome. That's one way that it shows up in our career, is that no matter how much you do, no matter how many accolades you have, there's this nagging feeling of that imposter syndrome. The second way that dropped in to identify is the relationship with lack consciousness, worry about money, anxiety about money, or only being identified through external worth as well. So when you don't have it, there's an inner conversation that happens. Because see, why is this? Is because money oftentimes is about security.
Mm-hmm.
And if your mother didn't have it, and the only way that you know how to get it is through, through survival mechanisms, sometimes even overachievement. I'm gonna do everything, try to do everything right. I'm gonna try to be perfect so I don't get in trouble, or so that I can get love. Then it becomes very a woman, particularly high achieving women, can become very performative, very transactional, and no substance. This has so many other spiritual implications as well, because again, we're talking about vulnerability. And y'all all right? I want to check in because y'all are quiet, and I want to make sure that you are getting something from this conversation. Do we need to pause here and just check in with each other? Because every Mother's Day, let me take it off for a minute. Every Mother's Day, this conversation comes up again and again and again. This conversation about the mother wound doesn't go anywhere. This conversation about mama trauma is sometimes the one we avoid, particularly if the mother is no longer with us. But do you know that there's so many ways to heal? There's so many ways to heal, even when someone has gone on. So this is not to defeat you or bring you down. In fact, I want to encourage you to resist the program to feel sad or bad. This is a clarion call for, I don't care if you're 60. This weekend in our process, we had people over 60 doing this work, even those who had been in therapy. It is nothing like when you go through rites of passage with or activation or workshops that are designed to support you. And if you are a mother with a mother wound, it's even more urgent because however you learn, you're either trying to overcompensate for it, or you're trying to overcompensate for what you didn't have, and you don't want your girls. How many of you say that? I don't want my girls to have the same issue, the same mother wound that I had. And so I'm telling you, I have almost avoided doing this work a little bit because in my private sessions, it always came up. And even in the work that we have done in rites of passage, it comes up over and over again. It really is a specialized work. So sometimes you go and you touch on it in other processes, but you don't fully ride it out. You don't fully do whatever the healing work is on it. And so okay, so thank you. Chantel is telling the truth in here. She said, I know I have overcompensated, right? All right. And I love this name. Beachy Peachy Pie says, my daughter is almost 18 and we are listening to the conversation together. Oh my goodness. I love it when that happens. There are so many women in this community who listen or share this work with or these conversations that we have on Shift Talk and in the YouTube. Go. This is probably not the first time. There is another broadcast I did years ago called The Unmothered Woman, because even if you don't have a mother wound, the fact that your mother may not have been emotionally available, or you are emotionally unavailable to your mother because you're holding a secret that she doesn't know that you went through as a result. There's so many stories that women have, particularly when women choose to be with men who become violators, who become predatory, or the merging of families. Okay, so sometimes the merge of families don't always work. You have dynamics where you merge with a family, and the siblings don't get along, or the family doesn't accept a child. There are dynamics where you are the product of what they call an illegitimate, they call the child illegitimate, even though it's the relationship that's illegitimate. There are some of us who have dynamics where the mother kept a secret all of the child's life, and the child didn't find out. And so the wound, because when you put the parent on a pedestal and you find out something afterwards, that can become a later experience with the mother's wound, where you feel betrayed, but the parent is not there, or they're elder. So there's so many dynamics. Yours is not necessarily the same. The other thing is, you don't have to be mad for you to acknowledge that you want to heal, that you want to grow. You do not have to be upset and broken because you know that there's a place in you that still needs some attention. Let's call it that. Maybe it's not healing, but it is attention to the details, so that you can be more available in relationships, that you can be more available to win and stop self-sabotaging. So can we keep going, or do you have some thoughts? I wanted to invite a few of the sisters from the community. If you are a member of the portal and you would like to start joining us on the platform for some of these conversations, please, in the portal, I'll put a post up today, and you let me know if there's some future conversations. I will let you know all of the upcoming shows so that you can have a heads up, and the ones you want to join, you can be a part of. So how many of you want me to keep going? Okay. All right. Peach, I love this. Beachy Peachy Pie said, keep going, Doc. Give me one more. I just want one more who wants me to keep going with the interview. And do subscribe to Courageous Woman Magazine for those of you who are high achieving women, executive women, or you're feeding your leadership in some way. All right. There's a juicy butterfly. Nina Songbird said, keep going. And is this one of the juicy she roses, the new juicy roses that have come forth? Is that you, Rita? Yes, pretty soon the juicy she roses are going to meet up with the juicy butterflies, and we're just going to have a good old rising time. All right. So I'm going to keep going with this part of the interview. All right. She said, yes, she rose in the house. That's right, girl. Claim it. And oftentimes, a high achieving woman never wants to, or has been programmed to be to think that she should never be seen as a victim. So therefore, you have a lot of women who are suffering in silence. They're significant in public. They have the significant brands, the significant titles, the significance of other people applauding her. But at home, she's fractured. She has a broken heart. And the person that broke her heart is her mother. And that's difficult sometimes I want to pause and digest that. Sometimes the most difficult wound or the most difficult thing to admit, even in your friendships with women, is that you have a broken heart that originated from your first relationship with women. Daddy always sometimes is the one that we want to place the blame on when he's not there, but we don't deal with the ones who were left there broken, scattered, trying to figure it out. Okay, I'll keep going. For a woman to say to another woman that my heart is broken, you broke me, you broke my heart, you disappointed me, you hurt me, you weren't there for me. Particularly when what you said, Dr. Talisha, like when you come from a generation of, don't say that to me. I have even done processes.
I'm the mother. You don't say that to me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've done processes for women who've lost their mother, and it never was healed. So it's like an open wound, and and being able to close that wound is a powerful thing. And just talking about it is a beginning, but that's not the real healing work. Listen, I can't tell you how many women I work with who have been violated in numerous ways and have never gone to therapy, have never had any type of therapeutic support. We have to stop this. And a lot of them are in the front of the room with the microphone. That's dangerous because you have so many powerful women leading women, and they're broken too. And they're not telling anybody that they're broken, that they're hurt, that this is how whatever happened to me. Sometimes it's more acceptable for women to talk about sexual abuse or physical abuse than it is the abuse that she may have experienced in her own family emotionally, because that emotional abuse is so invisible.
Yeah. I know that. I know that, personally, we can stand up in front of a room and smile and empower and educate and do all of the things when we are also hurt and broken.
And I can tell you a personal story really quickly. I'll take 30 seconds. I literally was that woman in many ways. I was working in ministry. And I'm a very eclectic woman, mystic, if you will, in terms of my work. But I came through traditional spaces, traditional religion, that type of, and a lot of the ministers and pastors who are my friends would love to talk to me in private, and they would even, I'd hear my words coming back across the pulpit, the platforms that they were on, but some of them would never invite me to their platforms. Well, it was triggering, because I couldn't understand how I was good enough for them in private, but not in public. Not everybody, but I'm just giving you an example of what was happening internally. And one day the Holy Spirit said to me, why does it matter so much? Well, see, I could, for months, I had different answers for why it matters so much, until I kept on doing the work, using my own tools, getting therapy, even taking the risk of having difficult conversations with my friends who were, in my estimation, wounding me too, re-wounding me, only for me to realize that the depth of that issue was coming from the desire to be accepted and acknowledged by my own mother. That's how it will show up. It will show up with you trying to find other spaces to accept you, to attach, or to explain why, that you belong, because you want to belong to something, to someone. And this is also how women end up in the arms of, one person after another, because they're looking for that type of nurture and acceptance.
Let me read, some of our people are here. Caroline says, you hit the head. Wearing masks, you have to answer the unheard cries. You cannot conquer what you don't confront.
That's right. That was the game changer for me, Carolyn, is when I literally had to confront myself, though. See, a lot of times we want to go, I've talked so many women off the ledge of going to confront her mother. That's also now it can work. It can, but it could be so messy and such a fallout. And this is how we get the breakdown that happens. But it really is when you do your work for yourself, so that when you are ready to have the conversation with the mother or the subject, let's say, because this is not just about mother in this case, with the subject of the upset, you're not as triggered. You're not going in with as raw. So it's not going to infect you again. But when you do your work in therapy or in coaching or processes, now I do believe women need to go through processes. We are tribal people. And the truth is, tribal people do not have one mother. There are many mothers in the tribe. This is why we have aunties and grandmothers. And I see young women right now. This is something that the young women now are doing. They're protecting, because they were so defenseless. They're protecting their children. And now they're raising their children without asking for any help, no one can say anything to you about your child. Nobody can tell you anything about your child. That is also unhealthy. We need each other. And you need another woman to guide you, because we put all of this weight on one person to be our salve. That is incorrect. We have,
especially if they're also wounded.
Especially if they're also wounded. But we've also always been tribal, where we've had a grandmother, an auntie, a big mama, somebody right next door who would be the supply, the balance of mother. And I thank God that I had that. There were often so many times that my mother's friends mothered me more than my mother.
I definitely can relate to that. I was raised by my grandparents. So I totally understand. My mom was there. I had aunties on both sides. So I definitely had it was the tribal effect, you know. And so we don't realize that at the time, but it's so needed. You know, when I look back, it was so needed, so vital in my life to have that support system of grandma, you said them, grandmama, mama, grandma,
Big
aunties, big
mama.
mamas, a couple of big mamas, you know, and then, you know, then they were gone. And now it's the cycle, you know, of life now that I'm now the auntie, I'm now the grandmama and the grandmama, you
Yes,
know,
yes.
so, and the
Mm-hmm.
cycle just continues. So
Yeah.
it's us. What do we do at this point when we realize, because we are now coming to ourselves and realizing that there may have been some issues that we didn't call issues. You know, we didn't know that it was really a issue that have come from our mother womb that has now come into our adult life. What do we do at this point? What are some of the strategies that we can use at this point to kind of help subside some of those, you know, situations with our daughters and
Run,
some.
don't walk, run. The same way you would for a Black Friday special. Run to get the healing.
Mm.
Because we have not, because we ask not. It's not going to just be done in church on Sunday for that 1 hour. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
You need, sis, if you're watching, you need a space where someone is looking into you.
Mm.
So whether that is therapy, whether that is private coaching, in my cases, I specialize in processes, because one of the things that we have always had, and we see other cultures have it and we downplay it, and that's rites of passage. That's why you see people have bar mitzvahs, right? You see that there's one for the boys and there's one for the girls. There's the other cultures that have special ceremonies for coming into womanhood. We must return to this. We have to talk to girls about the phases of womanhood that they go through and celebrate each other more, because it happens when we gather. It happens when we sit down and tell stories with one another, to one another. But when there is a toxic situation where there has been abuse, sometimes there needs to be a period and some even years of therapy. There are books now that women can go to, and so there's no reason in this age of information to sit and suffer in silence. At this point, there's sometimes a honorary choice that, well, it is what it is. I've heard that as well. We can't accept that. And what happens for a lot of young women who are motivated by only having, let's say, a man, a marriage, or the money, when that's taken away, then they want to do the work. Don't wait until you have a crisis. Be proactive and seek it. Because everything you seek is seeking you. If you're seeking love, love is seeking you. If you're seeking healing, healing is seeking you. But if you're seeking to hide, to run, to wait, to do fight or flight, you know, because a lot of women are fighting and fighting their mothers and their men, or they're fighting other women in organizations. And we see women fighting on television now. That's not even a real reality for most of us. But now our young people don't know the difference. And that's why you have bad girls clubs and baddies. I'm getting ready to go. The reason why I have a hard stop is I have to go and facilitate a session with young girls right now who are adjudicated. And what is their issue? Anger. And anger can be another form of grief.
Wow. I mean, this conversation can go on and on and on. It's so deep. It's so much more that we want to talk about. That's why we're going to have the after show. But I have just a couple more questions that
Okay, go ahead.
that we ask. I mean, this one is for the men. Does a
Mm,
mother wound affect men as well?
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
how does it
Absolutely.
show up differently in their lives?
Okay, so for men, sometimes he's trying to find his mother in between the legs of another woman, and this is why you have men who chronically cheat, who chronically
Mm.
are have whorish ways, because they're looking for mother in the legs and the bosoms of other women. So they're womanizers oftentimes, but it also
Explain that a little bit more. You said that. Let's stop right there. Explain that a little bit more so that's clear. Y'all listening? I wanted to make sure that's clear.
a lot of times the classic sign of a wounded man by his mother is how he treats women, but when it's chronic, when it's just like it's ridiculous, a lot of times he's looking for his mother or the access to his mother's heart. Because you got to remember, there are a lot of women who are raising men, and they're angry with the men that left them.
Mm.
So you have a lot of broken little boys that's overcompensating through porn, right? Through sexual activity, and of course other things. But men also who are wounded by their mother can be very critical of women, have a lot to say about women. And usually they can be very angry in terms of like, I know every wife, every woman can relate to this. You could say one thing to this man, and it is just as if you shot him down. Oftentimes he's been so criticized and so controlled and so beat down that it reminds him of the mother. The mother wound in a man is also is just as significant. It kind of manifests different, a little different, but imagine two people with the same wound in a relationship. It's happening because we attract our lessons. Now, I want you to hear that again. We attract our lessons. Anything that we have not healed, we will attract again in our relationships. And that's why we have the statistics that we have on marriage and relationships. The biggest trick that has been played on us is not physical slavery, but it is the breakdown of our families. Because the family is everything. And I didn't know this. And I'm saying this with all of this power and all of that, but I don't come from a family that necessarily has these tools. I have a lot of accomplished women, a very matriarchal ran family. A lot of the women were divas. I mean, I love the women in my family. However, this was not something that I knew. I was trying to get as far away from the family that hurt me as possible. But this is how we create economy. This is how we create strategy. But we want to go do that a lot of times in a sister group, but we can't do it in our own families because of the breakdown. Because many of us are prodigal daughters, prodigal sons, broken in like we don't want anything to do with, especially if you're the black sheep, if you're the one that has been rejected and despised, or the one that is the truth teller that calls things out. It's very easy. And I want to say this real quick, Talisha. Dr. Talisha, I want to say this real quick. It's very easy in many families to focus on daddy, the daddy that was not there. And he takes the brunt oftentimes of the reason why there's a breakdown in the family. And when you start doing your work, you might be surprised that the real wound that you're protecting is the mother wound, because she's the most protected wound. Daddy is not he's been the target by the Washington Post, by this magazine and that magazine, particularly the Black man, as not being there. But the mother that's left there is the one that's carrying off all the anger, the frustration, and the rage. So mother is not off the hook. And honestly, I believe that when we do more of this, we're going to see so much healing in our communities, because mother is everything spiritually as well. Even that has been erased from our religion. How come we give so much okay, let me stop. I won't go there, because you'll,
like I said, this is a really strong conversation, and we can go on and on. Listen, we need to have some books, some movies, some conferences going on seriously, because this is affecting our communities. This is affecting our mothers and the new grandmamas. You know what I mean? They already have had these issues, and now this is coming up, and now we're realizing, and even like you just said, it's the women are not off the hook when we come through challenging relationships. You know what I mean? It goes deeper than that.
So much deeper
Than I'm not letting the brothers off the hook that weren't doing the right thing either. But but when we dig into it, like you said, we really unpack the whole situation. You go all the way back and see even how you even got into a relationship where it was abusive from the first place. You know what I'm saying? What was it? What was those conditions in your life, in your mind, in your mindset? What was that wound that you had that even allowed you to be in that relationship and stay in that relationship? Now you got kids in the relationship that are dealing with the wounds.
Yes, especially if mother was not satisfied, if she settled. If you were a daughter witnessing your mother settle, there's a secret resentment in the daughter for the mother.
Wow.
Now, how is a daughter going to approach her mother about her settling and putting up with foolishness? It doesn't necessarily have to be abuse. Sometimes you have women who are older, come on now, let's talk about it, who stayed in relationships for financial reasons and they were unhappy. Your daughter was watching you, but she couldn't call you out because you wasn't going to let her call you out. She couldn't tell you about yourself. So,
or you didn't really know about yourself, and she didn't know why you didn't know about yourself. So,
yes.
Wow. Like I said,
oh, I'm sorry. I was just talking. I'm just talking. As I was saying, that if you want to hear more about that conversation, go over and watch the rest of it there. And we need to have more conversations like that. Would you agree? And I said, shout out to the Juicy She Roses in the house. I look forward to connecting with you all next week. If you are interested and being in the next round of this special edition of the Juicy She Rose journey, and you've already experienced the Fab Factor, you got to experience the Fab Factor first. That's 7 days, and it connects you to the 7 weeks. And why are we using the number 7? Because it's time for us to go through the first cycle of completion so that we can get to live in our perfection and our wholeness and our ancestral power and all of the way, and stop using our adrenals to manifest, but go deeper. So there is no tantra, no orgasmic conversation without getting to this, because you can start off with that surface level, but when we talk about our relationship to abundance, prosperity, We're talking about playing the Queen's piece. And so there is another piece that I want to get you all to, but first we got to get these things out of the way. If you are interested in a frequency reading, you want some one-on-one counseling, you want to at least start your journey, you have 2 readings to get to me one-on-one, and that is the blueprint reading. And the blueprint will take you into know how you need to be nourished, or how you need it to be nourished by your mother, your connection to your matriarchal line, and why, and how you love and how you move when it comes to your career, your currency, your coins, baby. That's the blueprint reading. Okay, you can use it. It never gets old. It's recorded. If you haven't had a frequency reading, I've been currently running a special. Those of you who have been around the community for a long time, you may need a frequency reading just to check in to see what's going on. And you know who's going to tell you? Not me. Your body. Your body's going to tell you. Your body's going to tell you how you have stuffed your emotions. Get a full frequency reading, honey, and we're going to dive deep into your own inner voices message, which has a soundtrack about how your mind, body, and spirit is processing all the things that you do not say out loud. So thank you for joining this week. I know that we have been delayed in our series, but honey, Mama is over here building and birthing 2 things. We still are building this progress. If you are interested in becoming a metaphysical master by ordination, or by advancing your degree, if you already have a bachelor's degree and you are interested in a master's degree in transpersonal psychology, which I now have my doctorate in, you can come, send me a message so that I can get you more information. We're working on very soon the Shamanic Studies program, which all roads leads to more advanced degrees in mastery in what you already have lived, done, and experienced. So I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Come join us in the portal. If nothing else, it's free. On Sunday, we will be having our first Sunday for the month of May, my birthday month. Yes, I'm accepting gifts the moment that the clock turns to May. Absolutely. If you're going to be in the DMV area on May 25th, I will be speaking at the Women's Day program. I want the tribe to spread the word. Come out, show up as your juicy butterfly self, or as your juicy, wherever you left on the path of rebirth. Come on in the room, honey. So there's so many ways for us to connect and reconnect. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Join us in the portal. Join us on Sunday. Join us on Wednesday. So don't ask, how can I get into the flow? You can get in early morning. You can get in late at night once you start to do this work. See you all on the other side. If there's no more ahas or digestion, okay, there it is. Beachy Peachy Pie said, woo, baby, this conversation is so needed. Thank you, Rev Doc. No, don't tell me happy birthday yet. It's not May. It's May 22nd. Not yet. But you all know I like to celebrate. All right. So thank you. Please pass this on. Like the channel. Help me grow the channel. Help me get to 1,000 so that I can go further. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Pass this on. Share this out. Don't keep me to yourself. See ya.